You know what's strange? Most people think intelligence is something you're born with. A number, a test score, something fixed. They're wrong. Because the most dangerous kind of intelligence, the kind that actually changes outcomes, doesn't show up on any test. It shows up in how you handle pressure when no one is watching. In what you don't say when saying it would feel so good. In the pause, that fraction of a second, between what happens to you and what you do about it. That's what this is about. 9 signs. Not of high IQ. Of something rarer. Mental strength that most people spend their entire lives trying to build, and never fully get there. Sign number 1. You have high self-control, and it actually costs you something. Let's kill the myth right now. Self-control is not the absence of desire. It's not that you don't want things. It's not that temptation doesn't exist for you. It's that you've developed, either through experience or through pain, the ability to delay what you want now for what you actually need later. Research from Stanford's famous marshmallow studies and decades of follow-up work found that self-control in individuals is one of the strongest predictors of long-term outcomes, stronger in many cases than raw IQ scores alone. But here's the part that never makes it into the motivational posts. High self-control is metabolically expensive. Studies in ego depletion show that resisting impulses draws on the same cognitive resources your brain uses for complex thinking. The reason highly self-controlled people often seem calm is not because they feel less. It's because they've learned to process more without broadcasting it. You feel the pull. You feel the urge. You feel the friction. You just don't let it drive. That is not restraint born from fear. That is intelligence applied to your own behavior. And it is one of the rarest things a human being can develop. Sign number 2. You speak less. But when you speak, people listen. Not because you're performing silence. Not because you're mysterious on purpose. Because you genuinely have a high threshold for what deserves to be said out loud. You've noticed it in conversations. While others are filling every pause, rushing to respond, talking over each other, you're still processing, still listening, still deciding whether what you have to add is actually worth adding. Research in communication psychology shows that individuals who speak less in group settings tend to have higher working memory capacity. They're holding more information in active processing before responding, which means when they do speak, the output is more considered, more precise, and more useful. There's also this. A study from Harvard found that people who listen more actively are rated as significantly more intelligent by their peers, not because of what they say, but because of the quality of their attention. You're not quiet because you have nothing to offer. You're quiet because you understand that words are expensive, and you refuse to spend them carelessly. Sign number 3. You don't spread rumors. Not even the interesting ones. This one is going to make you think. Because it's easy to not spread obviously harmful gossip. That's just basic decency. But what about the interesting story you heard about someone? The drama that's technically not your business, but would absolutely get a reaction if you shared it? The information that would make you more socially interesting in this moment? You hold it. You don't share it. And here's why that matters psychologically. Research on information sharing and social cognition shows that the impulse to spread unverified information is tied to a need for social bonding and status. We share gossip because it creates in-group connection and makes us temporarily more central to a social network. Resisting that impulse requires something specific, the ability to prioritize long-term social integrity over short-term social reward. That is prefrontal cortex behavior. That is high-level executive function. That is your brain choosing the harder, better path when the easy path was right there. People who don't spread rumors aren't just morally cleaner. They're cognitively stronger. They've learned that what you don't say defines you just as much as what you do. Sign number 4. You choose complexity over simplicity, but not to show off. You've been in conversations where someone gives a clean, simple, satisfying answer to something, and something in you goes slightly uncomfortable. Not because you want to be difficult, because you can see 3 things that answer doesn't account for. You can't help it. Your brain won't let you accept a map that doesn't match the territory. This is called integrative complexity, a psychological measure of how much a person can hold multiple perspectives, nuances, and contradictions simultaneously without collapsing them into something falsely simple. Research from the University of California found that higher integrative complexity is consistently associated with higher cognitive ability, better decision-making under uncertainty, and stronger leadership outcomes. The world rewards simple answers. Simple answers sell. Simple answers go viral. But simple answers are often wrong in ways that matter. You see the nuance not because you're overthinking, but because you're thinking at the right resolution for the actual complexity of the problem. That discomfort you feel when things get oversimplified? That's your intelligence refusing to be lazy. Sign number 5. You are true to yourself, even when it costs you the room. This one is harder than it sounds. Because being true to yourself isn't just about aesthetic choices or personal style. It's about what you say when social pressure is pushing you toward a different answer. It's about what you believe when the people around you believe something else. It's about what you do when performing a version of yourself would be easier, safer, more rewarded. Research in personality psychology links authenticity, the degree to which a person's behavior aligns with their internal values, to significantly better psychological outcomes, stronger decision-making, and higher overall life satisfaction. But there's a cognitive component too. Maintaining authenticity under social pressure requires what psychologists call identity stability, a clear, consistent internal reference point that doesn't shift based on who's in the room. That stability is rare. Most people's sense of self is far more porous than they realize. They absorb the room, mirror the crowd, adjust their positions without even noticing. You know who you are when no one is watching. And that knowing, that anchor, is one of the most powerful cognitive and psychological advantages a person can have. Sign number 6. You know exactly which battles are worth fighting and which ones aren't. Here's what weak people do. They fight everything. Every slight. Every inconvenience. Every plan that changed. Every situation that didn't go exactly the way they expected. They burn energy constantly on things that don't matter, and then wonder why they have nothing left when something real shows up. Strong people operate differently. Research in cognitive load theory shows that every decision, every resistance, every emotional reaction draws from the same finite pool of mental resources. The people who waste that pool on small things, they're depleted when it counts. You've learned, either through experience or through failure, to run a calculation before you react. Is this worth it? Does this actually matter? Will this matter in a year? Most of the time, the answer is no. So you adapt. You move. You let it go. Not because you're weak, not because you don't care, but because your brain has correctly identified that this situation does not deserve what it would cost you to resist it. That's not passivity. That is ruthless prioritization of your own energy. And in a world that is constantly trying to drain you, that is one of the most powerful things you can do. Sign number 7. You are not easily distracted, but probably not for the reason you think. It's not willpower, not discipline, not some superpower. It's that your brain has developed a stronger signal-to-noise ratio. Research on attention and cognitive control shows that individuals with higher working memory capacity are better at suppressing irrelevant stimuli, meaning their brains are more efficient at filtering out what doesn't matter so they can stay locked onto what does. This is different from someone who forces themselves to focus through gritted teeth. This is a brain that has, through consistent deep engagement with things that matter, trained itself to recognize noise and dismiss it automatically. You're not immune to distraction. You're better at detecting when something is trying to pull you off course and returning to center faster when it happens. That recovery speed, not perfect focus, but fast return, is what actually separates high performers from everyone else. Sign number 8. You ask for help, and you do it without shame. Let me tell you what asking for help actually requires. First, you have to know what you don't know. That sounds simple. It isn't. Most people are so threatened by their own gaps that they can't even see them clearly. Their ego is running defense, blocking the view. Second, you have to be willing to look incomplete in front of another person. To say out loud, I don't have this. You do. Teach me. That takes more strength than pretending you have all the answers. Research on expertise across every high-performance field, surgery, special forces, elite athletics, top-tier engineering, shows one consistent pattern. The best in every field are not the ones who know the most. They are the ones who are most aggressively honest about what they don't know, and most relentless about closing that gap. Intellectual humility is not softness. It is a weapon, because while everyone else is protecting their ego, you are getting better, quietly, consistently, without anyone noticing until the gap between you and them is too large to close. You don't ask for help because you're weak. You ask because you understand something most people never will. That pride is the most expensive thing you will ever own. And the people who put it down, even for a moment, are the ones who actually move forward. Sign number 9. You think before you react. Every single time someone says something that lands wrong, something unfair happens, a situation escalates, and there is a pause. Brief, maybe, but real. A moment where the reaction exists but hasn't been released yet, where you're still deciding. That pause is everything. Research in neuroscience shows that the gap between stimulus and response, what Viktor Frankl famously described as the space where human freedom lives, is regulated by the prefrontal cortex. The more developed and active this region, the more consistently a person can insert that pause between what happens and what they do about it. High emotional reactivity is not passion. It's not authenticity. It's a brain that hasn't yet learned to run the situation through higher processing before outputting a response. Your pause is not hesitation. It's not weakness. It's not overthinking. It is your most sophisticated cognitive system doing exactly what it was built to do, evaluating before acting, so that your response is chosen rather than triggered. In a world that rewards instant reaction, your pause is a superpower most people don't even know they're missing. So here's where we land. Self-control that costs something real. Words chosen with precision. Silence kept when gossip would be easy. A mind that refuses to oversimplify. A self that doesn't shift when the room shifts. Energy saved for battles that actually matter. Focus built from depth, not force. The strength to ask without shame. And a pause. Always that pause between what happens and what you do next. That's not a personality type. That's a way of operating that most people spend their entire lives trying to build and never fully get there. And if this video felt less like a list and more like a description of how you actually move through the world, you already know what that means. Drop a comment right now. Which one of these 9 hit different for you? Just the number. I read every single one. Every single time. And if someone in your life operates like this, quietly, precisely, powerfully, share this with them. Because people like this rarely hear it said out loud. And they should. I'll see you in the next one.